The city had been holding its breath all afternoon. By 6 o'clock, the first real snowfall of December had buried the sidewalks under 3 inches of silence. The kind of silence that softens everything: the edges of buildings, the outlines of parked cars, the sound of footsteps, until the whole world feels like it exists inside a snow globe, beautiful and contained and utterly indifferent to the people moving through it. Daniel Carter walked with his head slightly bowed, not against the cold, though the cold was real, and the wind came off the river in sharp, mean gusts. He walked with his head down because Emma was holding his hand, and she was 6 years old, and when she walked through snow, she liked to watch her boots make prints. She had been doing this for 3 blocks. She had been counting them, too, though somewhere around 47 she lost track and started over. 51, she announced. Good, Daniel said. You're not counting. I'm counting in my head. She looked up at him with the particular skepticism that only 6-year-olds can produce: total, unfiltered, devastating. No, you're not, he smiled. It was the first time he had smiled since the morning. And even now it was a small, tired thing. The kind of smile that lives mostly around the eyes. You're right. I wasn't. She seemed satisfied by the honesty, and went back to her boots. They were not particularly good boots. They were the ones she'd had since last winter, slightly too small now. The rubber seal around the toe beginning to separate. Daniel had noticed this 2 weeks ago, and had written Emma boots on the back of a grocery receipt that he kept in his coat pocket. He checked the receipt sometimes. The list was not getting shorter. His own coat was a dark gray wool blend that had been very good, once. He'd bought it 7 years ago, before everything changed. From a shop on Michigan Avenue that no longer existed. The lining was still intact. The buttons were still original, but the collar had frayed at the back, and one of the cuffs had a small burn mark from a candle at a dinner party he barely remembered attending. The coat looked, to anyone paying attention, like a coat that had survived something its owner would rather forget. The restaurant appeared on the corner of Clement and 5th like a lantern in fog. Hargrove and Sons Kitchen. The name was painted in gold on dark green, the glass windows glowing amber from within. Through the glass, Daniel could see the warm interior white tablecloths, brass fixtures, the movement of servers in dark aprons. He could see the condensation on the inside of the windows, the smudge of it, and it occurred to him that the room beyond that glass was warm in a way that the word warm barely captured. Emma saw it too. She stopped counting footprints. Dad, that looks really nice. It is nice. Can we go in? He looked at her face, her nose red from the cold, her eyelashes catching snowflakes, her expression one of pure and uncomplicated hope, and he reached into the interior pocket of his coat and felt the fold of bills there. He knew exactly how much was in it without counting. He had counted it twice already today, once this morning, and once outside the subway. $63. He thought about the week ahead. He thought about the groceries, about Emma's boots, about the electric bill that had arrived yesterday with a small red notice in the upper right corner. Then he thought about his daughter's face. Yeah, he said. We can go in. He had been here before, though not as a customer. He had been here as the person who decided the tablecloths would be white, and the fixtures would be brass, and the menu would offer a soup that cost $8. He had been here as the person who signed the lease on this location 6 years ago, back when the chain had 14 restaurants instead of 47, back when he still attended board meetings and answered emails from investors and wore suits that matched his coat. That was before Margaret died. That was before the year he lost track of himself so completely that he handed the day-to-day operations to his management team and moved into a smaller apartment and learned, slowly and painfully, and with Emma's help more than his own, how to be something other than a CEO. He was still the owner. His name was still on everything, in the way that quiet, invisible names tend to be on things on legal documents, on the holding company, in the fine print of every franchise agreement. But nobody at this location knew his face. He had made a point of that. He held the door open. Emma walked in first. The hostess was 19, maybe 20, and she looked up from her podium with the professional warmth of someone who has been trained to smile at everyone equally. Then she took in Daniel's coat, his worn boots, the small girl with the damp hair, and the slightly too small winter jacket. And the warmth, became something else. Not hostile, just cooler, the kind of cool that says, I see you, and I've already made a decision about you. Table for two? Please, Daniel said. She led them to a table near the back, close to the kitchen door. Not the worst table in the restaurant, but close. Daniel noted it without comment. He settled Emma into her chair and helped her out of her jacket, hanging it on the back of her seat. The restaurant was busy. A Friday night in December. Reservation heavy. The tables full of people spending the kind of money that gets spent in December: corporate dinners, birthday celebrations, couples on date nights with their phones face down on the table. The noise was warm and layered. Silverware and conversation, and someone's laughter from near the bar. Their server arrived before the menus did. Her name tag read Chloe. She was perhaps 24, with dark hair pulled back, and the confident posture of someone who has learned that the best tippers sit at the window tables, and that the people seated near the kitchen rarely order appetizers. She set the menus down with a small, efficient motion, and looked at them both. Her eyes did the thing. The same thing the hostess's eyes had done that. Quick, involuntary inventory. The coat. The girl's jacket. The worn edges of things. Hi there, she said. The there carried the faintest extra weight, the kind of weight that says this greeting is technically friendly but contains a judgment. Hi, Emma said immediately, because Emma greeted everyone with total sincerity. It's really warm in here. We were very cold. Something flickered across Chloe's face, not quite softening, more like surprise at being addressed directly by a child. Yeah, it's cold out, she said, and moved away before Emma could continue. Daniel opened the menu. He knew this menu by heart, could have recited it in his sleep. But he opened it anyway because he wanted to see it the way a customer saw it. The soup of the day was French onion, $8. The dinner rolls were listed as a side at $3.50. A children's portion of pasta with marinara was $9. He did the math. He had done the math before entering. Standing outside in the snow, with $63 in his coat, and a daughter who was cold and hungry, and hoping. Emma was studying her menu with the focused seriousness of a small person confronting an important decision. She could not read most of the words, but she recognized numbers, and she was matching the numbers to the pictures on the laminated insert at the back. Dad, she said quietly, the macaroni is $9. I know, that's a lot of dollars. It is. She looked at him. That same unfiltered directness. Is it okay? It's okay, he said. Chloe returned. She had a small notepad, and she held it at an angle that suggested she was already thinking about the next table. Do you need more time? No, Daniel said. We're ready. She'll have the children's pasta, and I'll have the soup, the French onion, and the dinner rolls. The pause was brief. It was the kind of pause that most people would not notice. Daniel noticed it. Just the soup? Chloe said. Just the soup. She wrote it down without looking at him. Anything to drink? Water is fine for both of us. She took the menus. As she turned away, Daniel watched her walk toward the service station near the far wall, where two other servers were standing. He watched her lean toward one of them, a young man with a short beard, his name tag reading Preston, and he watched her say something, low and quick, her chin tilting briefly in the direction of their table. Preston glanced over. Then he smiled. The kind of smile that is not for the person being looked at. Emma was drawing on the paper placemat with the crayon the hostess had provided. She was drawing what appeared to be a house with a very large sun. Daniel watched her and did not say anything about what he had just observed. He had been watching things, in restaurants, and in offices, and in boardrooms, for a long time. He had a talent for it, the capacity to take in information without being seen to take it in. He had used it, once, to build something. Tonight, he was using it differently. The soup took 20 minutes. This was not unusual on a busy Friday night, but the table next to theirs, seated 5 minutes after them, received their appetizers in 12. Daniel noted the timestamp without making a thing of it. Emma had finished her placemat drawing and was now working on a second one, having requested another crayon from the hostess, who had provided it with noticeably more warmth than Chloe had shown. When the food did arrive, Chloe set the children's pasta down in front of Emma with a genuine enough, "There you go," but placed Daniel's soup bowl in a motion